Hello guys, this is me, Chris, back with another video for you, and today I'm building a file server. I've been neglecting to build one for quite some time because where I'm gonna put it, how do I configure it, do I really need it, how many are we that will use it, and so on and so forth. But I've got a good deal on a workstation computer, which you can see behind me. The Precision currently houses a Intel Xeon E5410 quad-core processor running at 2.3 GHz. It has 4 GB of DDR2 memory, and it came with no hard drives. It came with a busted optical drive. It doesn't have a front panel, and there were 2 graphic cards that was not cross-fired. Don't know why they had 2 in it. The GPUs also were missing their bracket. I'm thinking they came with a low profile bracket and they just removed the bracket and pushed the cards in anyway. So and the power supply is around 875 watts of Dell gloriness. And at the moment I have all my drives in my main PC, and you could argue that you could keep all your drives in there and just share them. But I could do that, but that also means I have to keep my PC on every day 24/7. So in order for my girlfriend to access our movies and pictures, etc., it also increases the heat inside my case. Currently I have 6 hard drives. Some of them are SSDs, but the 3 mechanical drives are all clustered and in the front. And also in the front I have 2 fans that is sucking air in to feed my top radiator with fresh air, and that air has to pass through those drives. So in my mind that air gets preheated before it reaches the radiator, so I'm basically cooling my CPU with hot air. It may be just 1 or 2 degrees, but I think it's enough for me to make a change. There's also the issue about noise. Mechanical drives are not silent, and they do vibrate a little bit when all of them are accessed at the same time. I do hear resonance inside of my case, and I'm glad I'm gonna get that out. I have my games on a 2 TB SSD, which I made a video about a few weeks ago. You can check that up. I can put it here. And you can see my findings on why I switched my mechanical game drive to an SSD drive. Oh, and another heat thing, they also expel individual heat, so it also increases general compartment air. Another good thing by getting my drives out of my main PC and into another PC is that since I fiddle around with a lot of stuff I really shouldn't be fiddling around with. Let's say some guy on a forum says, I've tweaked the NVIDIA's latest video drivers, check here. I will check and experiment and see if it works better or not. And of course people will exploit that and put viruses and malware and keyloggers and crap inside their zip files. Now I do scan everything I download, but shit happens, accidents happen, and having the backups on the same PC that I mess around with a lot is kind of a bad idea. But anyway, back to the file server. Today almost any PC can act a file server. You just get a simple i3, a decent ITX motherboard with enough SATA ports, and you don't even have to get a RAID card or anything. But why did I go with the workstation? Well, basically I salvaged this one from being scrapped, and it's an older model. It's not the latest and greatest, but it will do the trick. It will do the trick fine, and in fact even now with only 4 gigs of RAM and the single Xeon that is in it will do the job just fine. So for me, it's just more fun to mess around with this because I have no idea what I'm doing, or I have some idea what I'm doing. I hope I learn something by installing Windows Server 2012 instead of going with FreeNAS or Windows 8.1, because that's also, you can share folders and drives and stuff out of Windows 8.1. But yeah, I'm hoping to learn something, and I hope you do too in this build. So back to precision. Normal computers share a lot of similarities to a server. You've got your CPU, you got your RAM, and you got your drives, which basically makes a good computer. Besides the obvious power supply and stuff like that. And a lot of our consumer grade hardware actually comes from a server inheritance. So while we are sitting on an i7 6-core like I have, in the server industry they are using 12 cores, 16 cores, 24 cores and above. Some of the differences between these types of hardware is that besides the increase in price, I know some of you maybe have looked at a Xeon, at your motherboard, and see I can use a Xeon, and you check your local store, and the Xeon is lower in performance to what you have, but the price is almost a double or triple that, and you're like, why would that be? Because my CPU is better. Well, for instance, the CPU handle the workloads differently. So your applications and your games works better on fewer cores that are higher in speed, for say 4 cores at 4 gigahertz, while a Xeon processor can do many more things at the same time, utilizing more cores and doing it slower. So that's why you even can have 2 Xeons, because you can balance out the workload on 2 CPUs instead of 1 CPU. Another difference is the RAM, the ECC RAM, which I mentioned earlier. When you sit by your computer and you're making this awesome drawing in Photoshop, and everything is and an error hits your RAM. The application terminates, all your progress is lost, and you're like, oh, my picture. If this happens in a server environment, it could be devastating. I can only exemplify from myself, and I work at a hospital, and if we get these kinds of errors, that means a medical journal might go poof, and how do we treat that patient? And it's a matter of life and death. So in a server environment, errors cannot happen, and ECC RAM are much more resilient to errors. Now, I hope you don't think that your journal or medical records are only protected by like an error in RAM and it's all poof gone. There's a billion of fail-safes so to recover your medical journal, but it's an example. I take it for what it is. Server grade hardware generally gets a lot more testing, validation. It gets harder quality control. It can withstand harder workloads and longer life cycles. So yeah, since I'm already been on CPU and memory, I thought I'll take a detour on the drives as well. The server grade drives are much more resilient to wear and tear than your consumer drives is, because if we take maybe one of your cases as examples, you have 2 or 3 drives sitting close together. That's it. They're sitting there in your chassis, and they're getting access to maybe, oh no, I'm playing a game, no, that's one spinning. Oh, I want to listen to music, and that one's spinning. Not much more to it than that. But in a server environment where you have maybe 36 drive enclosure, where there's drives everywhere in 5 rows and 4 columns or whatever, and they're all being accessed at the same time, and there's being vibrations in the case. So a lot of enterprise drives has to be resilient to that kind of environment. Well, that was me rambling enough about why I went with the precision hardware. So I'm gonna throw everything that's on the bench inside the case. So here you have all the stuff that's going inside the workstation. As you can see there, you have the front panel, which I said was missing. There's a Lighten 256GB SSD drive. The memory is getting switched out from 4GB of DDR2 to that 32GB ICY memory kit. Here we have a Quadro, and up there we have another NVIDIA Quadro. I'm not sure which card I'm going to use. It seems redundant to use them both. Here we have my ICY BOX Backplane, or the hot swappable hard drive cage, which I unboxed and overviewed a few days ago. You can see the video up in the corner. Up here is the Intel quad-core Xeon. It's a E5410 2.3 GHz CPU to go with the other identical Xeon processor inside the case. You also see the extra heatsink which I got. That's the storage drives which I'm putting inside the backplane. There's also a third one going in, but I don't have that formatted and ready just yet. The fan in this case is the biggest fan I've ever seen. There are no fan filters, so this comes from a vacuum cleaner. So this I got for like €2. I just cut them out to size. I got a whole sheet, and which was folded inside a little box, and I held it up against the case, I cut it out, and I've test fitted it, and these are screw holes. Now I can't use screws, so I'm gonna use this front panel have to go. It comes off, and this little bracket in the middle this is what keeps me from opening the hot swappable tray middle door. So I'm gonna take this off, I'm gonna take it out to the kitchen, and I'm gonna sand it off, cut it off and just sand it down. The DVD drive does not work, so that one is coming out and is going in the trash. So first we take this, and I'm gonna cut these off. We have 50 grit sandpaper, 150 grit sandpaper, and 100 grit sandpaper. First, there's no going back now. So the server is finally done. It's complete, finito, färdig. Yes, fuck yeah. Some closing thoughts. After installing Windows Server 2012, I booted up and I activated the remote session manager and put it in my closet and forgot about it. No, I have a small walk-in closet. It's not a small enclosed closet, it's fairly big. I drilled a hole through the wall, pushed a TP cable through it, and I bought a cable extender, a power cord extender. I took it apart, pushed it through the wall, which was maybe 30 centimeters thick. So I pushed that through the wall, I assembled it on the other side, so now I have a power outlet in there, and yeah, I booted it up, and whenever I need something on my server, I can use the RDP or remote desktop manager to access it. I've set up accounts for me and my girlfriend, so we both have individual file shares. She has a file share which she can log on to with her credentials, and I have a file share which I can log on to with my credentials. And there are some drives which I share with the network, with maybe movies and music and stuff like that, which we both have access to. The RAM got a little bit hotter than I cared for it to be, so I've actually added 80mm fans in the back just to suck air out. For future plans for the server, I got this, a Raspberry Pi. So the plan is to when the SD card and when the cable arrives, that I will get Kodi or Plex onto this one and hook it up to my home entertainment system, and hopefully I will be able to stream via the network or the shared drives. So we'll see how that goes. All in all, I'm pretty happy. I'm still learning Windows Server 2012. I've only done the security and the permissions for the drives, and I've shared them. I haven't really started with the automatic backup settings and stuff like that, but I'm slowly learning Windows Server 2012, and hopefully what I learn by experimenting with it, I can bring back to work and experiment there without having to destroy something. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Like if you like it, dislike if you dislike it, subscribe if you want to see more. Leave a comment if you have something nice to say, or if you have any questions about what I did with it. And as always, take care and see you next time.